In this next lesson, we're going to take a look at the count aggregation function in a query. In this case, we're going to be using the data that I have over here, this data set of some students and some math and reading scores. By the way, just real quickly, I create this data set all by using some random functions over here where I can randomly create female, grade 2, my grade levels and my scores, so I can build this quick 500 row set of data. Let's take a look at count. I have already set this up using a named range, so we're going to do a query, and we're going to do scores because I have set up that data set there as scores, and in this case we're going to select. And we want to do a count. So we're going to do count. We're going to do a count of, for instance, B, our gender column. Let's just do a count. And we wrap the B in the parentheses, finish out our quote, and end the query. And I get a count of gender. I have 500. And I can come over and take a look. If I look at gender, hit that, I see 501. That includes the header row. So there's just a count of that. We could go ahead and copy this just to save a little bit, and I'll paste this over here. And in this case, what I would like to do is go ahead and show the gender by male and female, and I can do that by simply selecting B, comma, count B, and then we're going to group by B. And now, very quickly, I get my breakdown of male and female. If I were to take this formula and paste it here, and I like to keep these cleaned up so I know where my formula lives. In this case now, rather than looking at gender, I'd like to take a look at column C. So I'm going to select C and do a count of C and group by C. And when I do that, very quickly I get what looks like a pivot table, essentially, of the data of grade and gender. Now technically I could go ahead and create a pivot table out of this data, and I could just insert a pivot table of that data set, and I'm going to put it on an existing sheet, and I'll put it over here on this count sheet. We'll just set it here. We're going to create a pivot table. This would be the other way to get a hold of this data. We were showing gender, and we were showing a count of gender. And I can see that I have that. I could turn my rows on and off. I could grab this and move it down so I could show how this would sit in there like that. I could also then change this pivot table. I can copy, if I put my cursor in that cell of the pivot table and come here and paste it, I get a duplicate of the pivot table. I can get rid of that, and I can go ahead and say I want to actually see the grades, and I want to do a count of grades. And so, and again, I could turn that off, and now I basically have the same information that I built with these formulas. That's using the count function, and very handy if I'm trying to summarize some data and put it on a dashboard page. I can use the query formula or a pivot table. The pivot table has the disadvantage of always popping this open, but it also certainly has some advantages.